I found myself standing alone in an eerie room, the air thick with a palpable sense of foreboding. The silence hung heavily, broken only by the occasional creak of the ancient floorboards beneath my feet. Shadows danced menacingly on the walls, casting grotesque shapes that seemed to whisper of hidden terrors. The room itself exuded a malevolent energy, as if it held the echoes of nightmares long forgotten. The walls, adorned with faded wallpaper, depicted scenes that twisted and contorted into grotesque forms when viewed in the dim light. The furniture, draped in dusty sheets, appeared frozen in time, as if waiting for some unseen force to animate it. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched by unseen eyes, their gaze penetrating the very fabric of my being. Every step I took echoed ominously, reverberating through the stillness like a distant, haunting drumbeat. The air grew colder, causing a shiver to run down my spine, as though the very atmosphere was alive with a malevolent intent. Suddenly, a soft whisper slithered through the silence, sending a chill down my spine. It was a voice, barely audible, yet laden with a sinister resonance. It spoke in a language unknown to me, a language that seemed to claw at the edges of my sanity. I strained to understand, but the words slipped through my grasp like elusive specters. As I turned to leave, the door slammed shut with a deafening thud, trapping me in this nightmarish chamber. Panic set in, my heart pounding in my chest like a desperate drum. The walls seemed to close in, their oppressive weight bearing down on me. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and I felt an unseen presence closing in from all sides. In the dim light, I glimpsed fleeting shapes, grotesque figures that seemed to materialize from the shadows. Their eyes gleamed with a malevolent light, fixated on me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. I stumbled backward, desperate to escape the suffocating grip of this nightmare room. As I fumbled for the door, the room seemed to warp and twist, its reality bending into a nightmarish tableau. Faces contorted into grotesque masks, and the air pulsed with an otherworldly energy. The whispers reached a fevered pitch, a cacophony of incoherent sounds that threatened to drown out my sanity. With a final desperate push, I forced the door open and stumbled into the hallway beyond. The oppressive atmosphere of the nightmare room lingered, but I was free. Yet, the echoes of that chilling experience would forever haunt my dreams, a testament to the inexplicable horrors that lurked within the shadows of that accursed place. I stumbled into the hallway, my breaths coming in ragged gasps as I tried to distance myself from the malevolent room. The corridor stretched endlessly before me, its walls seemingly closing in with each step. The dim light flickered overhead, casting unsettling shadows that seemed to writhe and dance along the floor. As I hurried along the corridor, the temperature fluctuated wildly, plunging into an icy cold before surging into an oppressive heat. The air itself seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the nightmare room's influence lingered, stretching its sinister tendrils into the very fabric of the house. The whispers persisted, following me like a haunting melody, their indecipherable words clawing at the edges of my consciousness. I dared not look back, fearing the sight of those grotesque figures emerging from the shadows. The hallway seemed to warp and twist, its dimensions distorting with each passing moment, disorienting me in a nightmarish maze. Doors lined the corridor, their surfaces adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to come alive, contorting into nightmarish shapes. The handles rattled and turned on their own accord, as if inviting me to step into yet another chamber of horrors, but I pressed on, driven by an instinctual need to escape the clutches of that haunted place. As I reached the end of the corridor, a staircase loomed before me, its steps descending into a darkness so profound it felt like a tangible presence. Reluctantly, I descended, the oppressive atmosphere clinging to me like a suffocating cloak. The air grew thicker with each step, and the temperature plummeted, sending shivers through my trembling form. A distant guttural growl echoed from below, its source hidden in the abyss. My pace quickened, fueled by a primal fear that urged me to escape whatever lurked in the depths. The whispers transformed into anguished cries, voices pleading for release from an unseen torment. At the bottom of the stairs, a doorway beckoned, its frame pulsating with an otherworldly glow. I hesitated, the air heavy with the weight of the unknown. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open, stepping into a surreal landscape that defied all reason. The nightmare room's influence extended beyond its physical confines, permeating the very essence of the house. I was trapped in a shifting dreamscape, where reality itself seemed to unravel. Shadows writhed and merged, forming grotesque shapes that taunted the boundaries of my sanity. In the heart of this surreal nightmare, I stood alone, surrounded by the echoes of forgotten fears. The nightmare room had become a twisted labyrinth, and I, an unwilling wanderer, lost in the recesses of my own terror. The whispers persisted, the shadows danced, and the nightmare room's grip on my consciousness tightened, leaving me suspended in a realm where nightmares and reality became one. Time lost its meaning in that surreal nightmare, and I stumbled through the shifting landscapes of my own fears. Whispers surrounded me like a swarm of unseen specters, their voices weaving a cacophony of dread. The air itself seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy, as if the nightmare room had become a living, breathing entity, feeding off my terror. The surroundings twisted and contorted, morphing into surreal tableaus that defied logic. Faces emerged from the walls, their expressions contorted in agony, and spectral hands reached out from the shadows, grasping at the edges of my consciousness. I felt a maddening pressure building within me, a psychological weight that threatened to crush my sanity. As I ventured deeper into the nightmarish realm, the boundaries between reality and hallucination blurred. Whispers turned into anguished wails, and the shadows took on a tangible, malevolent presence. I could feel eyes watching me from every direction, unseen entities observing my descent into madness. The nightmare room's influence manifested in grotesque manifestations of my deepest fears. Figures from the darkest recesses of my subconscious danced before me, their twisted forms a grotesque mockery of humanity. Faces contorted into masks of despair, and their hollow eyes bore into my soul, reflecting the abyss within. The very fabric of the nightmare seemed to warp time itself. Moments stretched into eternity, and reality folded in on itself, creating a disorienting, hallucinatory experience. I stumbled upon scenes from my past, distorted and warped, where familiar faces wore expressions of torment and betrayal. A malevolent force seemed to guide my every step, manipulating the nightmare's terrain to amplify my deepest anxieties. The air crackled with an ominous energy, and a haunting laughter echoed through the corridors of my tortured psyche. I felt like a pawn in some cosmic game, a plaything for forces beyond my comprehension. In the depths of the nightmare, I reached a surreal chamber where the very essence of my fears coalesced into a nightmarish tableau. The room pulsed with a sickening energy, and the air became thick with a suffocating dread. I confronted distorted reflections of myself, each a grotesque embodiment of my insecurities and vulnerabilities. As the nightmare room tightened its grip, I realized that escape was an illusion. The boundaries between the dream and reality had collapsed, and I was ensnared in a perpetual state of torment. The whispers became a relentless chorus, the shadows a relentless dance, and the nightmare room a prison from which there seemed to be no escape. In the heart of the surreal nightmare, a realization dawned. The only way to break free was to confront the source of my deepest fears. Gathering what remained of my fractured courage, I pressed on through the ever-shifting landscapes, determined to unravel the mysteries that bound me. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, guiding me towards a doorway that shimmered with an ethereal light. As I stepped through, the oppressive atmosphere gave way to a blinding brilliance. I found myself in a room bathed in a soft, calming glow, the echoes of torment replaced by a serene silence. Before me stood a mirror, its surface pristine and reflective. Hesitant, I gazed into it, and the twisted reflections of my fears stared back. The room seemed to hold its breath as I confronted the distorted versions of myself, each one a manifestation of my inner struggles. With a surge of determination, I shattered the mirror, breaking the illusion that bound me. The nightmare room convulsed, as if recoiling from the release of its captive energy. The whispers faded, the shadows retreated, and the oppressive weight that had gripped my soul lifted. As the nightmare room crumbled around me, I found myself back in the real world, gasping for breath. The once malevolent chamber now lay in ruins, its influence dissipating like a fading dream. The air felt lighter, and the echoes of the nightmare faded into a distant memory. I stood amidst the wreckage, shaken but triumphant. The nightmare room, with its spectral whispers and grotesque manifestations, had been vanquished. It existed now only in the recesses of my memory, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit against the darkest corners of the mind. Leaving the shattered remnants of the nightmare room behind, I emerged into the world outside, a world now bathed in the soft glow of dawn. The nightmare had been a harrowing journey into the depths of my own fears, but it had also been a crucible, forging a newfound strength within me. As I walked away from the crumbling edifice, the sun broke through the clouds, casting its warm rays upon the world. The nightmare room, with all its horrors, was but a chapter in the book of my life, a chapter that had come to a close. I carried the scars of that haunting experience, but I also carried the resilience to face whatever shadows may come, knowing that within the darkest recesses of the mind, there is also the power to overcome.